welcome back to episode 3 of the Live, Love, Langmuir podcast. I'm Guneet.
I'm Sonia.
I'm Joseph.
I'm Brianna.
I'm John.
And I'm RHD Amber.
So RHD Amber is our special guest this week because we're doing an episode all about the RA position. And I know a lot of our listeners are really interested in applying to be RAs. So I thought we could all just kind of go around and talk about why we became RAs and kind of like the story of that. So I applied during my first year here at Stony Brook, and I was kind of going back and forth a lot about if I wanted to apply or not. My 2 roommates at the time, I was in a triple the whole year. They were both really interested in the position, and I didn't really think much about it at first, but then, I got involved in hall council and I really liked it. So I figured I would just apply, and if I didn't get it, at least I went to a formal interview, so I had that practice under my belt. So then I applied, and I'm really happy with how my interviews went. So that was 3 years ago, so there was still a group interview and there was still an individual interview. There wasn't a class or anything. So that went super well, and I was happy with it. So I was if I don't get it, at least I tried my best. And then I got hired, and it was a surprise to me, and also because the friends that I applied with, they didn't get hired at that point. So it was just kind of a bittersweet feeling because I really wanted them to get the position. And then I also found out I got hired in Langmuir, and you know how Langmuir's reputation precedes it. And so I was really intimidated. I was can I even do this? But the Benedict Hall Council president during my first semester was Jess McKay, who went on to become an RA in Langmuir. She was Bree's RA. And so I was really excited. I was I get to work with Jess McKay again, and she's so awesome. And I heard so many wonderful things about the Langmuir RAs. And they were all super nice and welcoming to me as soon as I got hired. They added me on social media. They messaged me saying they were excited to work with me. So it was a really nice feeling going into the job, but I was also really stressed out.
So when I first wanted to be an RA, I went to I can't remember her name, but I went to an RA's event in Tabler, and she was she did a spa day. And, I never went to a spa day. So I was just this is interesting. And, everyone there was super welcoming and comforting. I kind of felt uneasy being a guy going to, a spa day event because, I don't know. I just don't normally picture it like that. And, she felt that, and she, saw my face, she was hi, how are you? And she, welcomed me over, and then she was what do you want to do? And I was just my friend was with me. She was paint his nails. And I was just oh, I guess we're painting my nails. I got a teal coat. I went to Roth. The lady said it was cool. I was yes. So I was huh. That whole experience just kind of it could have ended very negatively, where I could have been just sitting there all night, watching people have fun. And it was just really nice that the RA took the time to pull me in, even though she clearly saw that I didn't want anything to do with this. Mm-hmm. That's what first made me wanted to apply to become an RA. Then I applied. I lived in Roth at the time. So I expected, to be somewhere within the quad of Roth, either Tabler or Roth. When I got into Langmuir, I didn't find out through the email like everyone else. I kept on checking the Star Res application every single day.
That's funny.
And then one day it popped up Langmuir, and I'm does this mean I got the job? So I took a screenshot and I texted it to all my buildings RAs. I was does this mean I got the job? Because I haven't received the email yet. They're yeah, I think so. And I was oh. And then they all texted me back Langmuir, and I was yeah. He was simultaneously, because all my RAs just texted me interesting. You're gonna have fun there. It's a lot of work, but you're gonna have fun. And I'm what do you mean a lot of work? Because and then so I'm okay, I got the summer to think about this. I accepted the position obviously because I've always wanted to be an RA. Back when I saw that episode of Back to the Bell, and their RA back when they were in college, their RA,
by the Bell, the college years.
Yeah, their RA was pretty cool, and I always was I want to be just like that guy. So I was dream realized. And then I came here intimidated as heck because, again, Langmuir's reputation precedes itself. And I was I don't know how to be this efficient, this, outgoing, this RE. But, after the semester, it felt okay. It was a lot of work to adjust, but it was, I'm here and I'm thriving, so it was nice.
You are thriving.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to become a EOP, which is the Educational Opportunities Program RA, because my RA from that program inspired me because we have to do a summer camp, and I was like, yes, I'm just gonna do that. But then when we moved in for the fall and spring semester, I had Jess McKay as my RA, which she has been an inspiration to a lot of people.
Love you, Jess McKay.
Including me. So then I also wanted to become a RA. But like a difficulty that I had during the time was I was like, I'm a freshman. Like, how many sophomore RAs are there? So I started calculating every single thing. And I was like, yeah, the probability of me becoming an RA at a sophomore year, I was like, I'm not sure. But then something, I think just finding out that Camille, who was an RA in Langmuir last year, and like Lynn were both sophomore RAs, I think that's what really pushed me to finally apply for it. And I don't regret it. Yeah.
Why did I want to become an Oh shit, what did I do?
It's still recording,
Okay.
You're fine.
Why did I want to become an RA? It just kind of seemed like the next step in what I wanted to do on campus. I was a fellow, I was a tutor at the ASTC. Becoming an RA just kind of seemed like the next natural step to help build up my own leadership abilities. My first and second year RAs were awesome, Shane and Noah. I got to work with Shane last year for a semester, which was really cool.
My first semester RA, City and Benedict, was amazing. And I think when you're an intimidated freshman, your RAs really do like impact you and kind of make you feel like this place is your home and you can thrive here. So shout out to you, City, because I was really inspired by you. And then I think that was like the ultimate deciding factor, like why I wanted to apply, because I was like, oh, like if I hadn't had City, then my experience wouldn't have been this great, and I want to be that for someone else.
I also applied because I really enjoyed spending time with my RAs and was inspired to apply because of them. And then I got hired and had to move across campus. And then I met a bunch of other great people.
I applied. I had to look it up. And so I applied to be an RA in December of 2013. So I'm old. That was my sophomore year of college. And I hadn't lived on campus my first year. Like, I didn't know what an RA was. I had some friends that were RAs, and I was like, that's cool. And I didn't even know that adults lived in the building. So I didn't even know that the RHD role was even a thing. But after my first year at my undergrad, I became an orientation ambassador, which we lived on campus there and kind of did RA things because it was an overnight program, so students stayed for 2 days. And it was so much fun. Like, I loved taking the, like, really nervous and, like, scared, like, not even first-year students because they weren't even, like, on campus yet. And just kind of, like, getting, like, relieving their anxieties and just getting them, like, super excited, all within 48 hours was really, really cool. So then I became a peer mentor, which is equivalent to the fellows position here. And similar to John, I just kind of felt that RA was like my next leadership role that I needed to accomplish. And actually I applied and I got waitlisted and I cried. I was so upset. I was like, how did they not pick me? I have these other leadership roles on campus. Like, I'm a phenomenal leader. I had a pretty big head back when I was a sophomore.
As you should.
And I, like, really did some self-reflecting for a few weeks. I was, like, really distraught, pretty upset. And I think that it's important to remember that, you know, everything happens for a reason. And I scheduled a meeting with the associate director at the time at my institution and just kind of went over, like, how my interview went and things like that. And I learned a lot about myself. And then a few days later, actually, someone resigned, and then I was picked up because I was on the wait list. So I was able to become an RA that spring semester of my sophomore year, but I think that, you know, that was a really tough semester. It was a lot of learning and a lot of growth. So I understand why I wasn't selected the first time. But, you know, it was a good experience, and yeah, I loved it.
So what was the RA position like at your old school versus here at Stony Brook?
Yeah, so there's a lot of differences. I guess not a lot, but I think the main one that sticks out to me is we did our like duty hours not in an office. We just sat in the main lobby, and we could not have guests. Like, it didn't matter if they were residents, it didn't matter if they were friends. Like, we could not have people sit with us while we were on duty at the desk. We couldn't have people walk around on tours with us. We couldn't do any of that. And I really think that, coming here, I don't know if you all remember, but I was like possibly going to make it a rule that you guys couldn't have guests in the college office when you were on duty.
I remember that. I'm not happy about that.
Yeah, I was like, because that's just where I came from. Like, that's how it was. And I was like, you're going to be distracted. And like, what if an incident happens? And all these things. Because at my old institution, the RAs were really, sitting on duty to make sure that incidents weren't happening, or if incidents were happening, they were like immediately responding. It wasn't so much of a community engagement initiative, which I love that here at Stony Brook, it's like both pieces. Like, yes, you're policy enforcers, you're there for duty and incident response, but like you're also building the community. Like the last 2 nights, the college office has just been popping, which has been so nice to see, because everybody's really excited to see you all, which is really cool.
So, what is it like being an RHD? I think a lot of our listeners don't really know exactly like the ins and outs of the job.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think that a lot of people don't know what it is. I feel like I explain it every single time I go home to like my parents and my grandparents and aunts and uncles and things like that. Some of my dad's coworkers still think I'm an RA because they like knew me as an RA for so long that they're like, yeah, you're just an RA again, and I'm like, kind of, but it's very different. So I would say that, my favorite parts of my day are definitely when I'm with students. So whether that's, at hall council meetings, meeting with my RAs for one-on-ones or staff meetings, as well as, like attending events on campus that my residents invite me to. Please invite me to your events. I like to go to them, and see what you're passionate about outside of the building. There's a lot of like sending emails and like a lot of administrative tasks, and working on committees and, planning programs and things like that so that students, feel safe and welcomed and comfortable where they're living, making sure that Langmuir is clean and healthy and safe for you all. Yeah, just making sure that like you're enjoying your college experience, and that if there's anything that I can add to it while I'm here, then I want to do that for you, whether that's like helping develop you as a leader or, getting the toilet fixed on the floor. Like, both are very, very important because I want you to enjoy your experience here.
But if you weren't an RHD, what would you do?
Ooh, that's a good question. So my undergrad is actually in exercise science. So, like personal trainer or like occupational therapist or like physical therapist or something like that. So maybe I would like do something like that, like some personal training, because I do love to go to the gym. But another thing that I've been like reflecting on that I feel like I missed out of my life was not serving in the military, which I think is interesting. That was like a lot of my family members did, and like friends from high school and stuff did, and I don't know, that's like something that maybe I wish that I had done, maybe instead of going to college and then going to college a little bit later. I really have a lot of admiration for our veteran students, and I really enjoy working with veteran students because of all that they've given for the country and things like that, and I feel like there's so much that I want to give back to them being a student affairs professional. I'm trying to think. Maybe a teacher. I don't know. I was like all over the place. Not really sure, but this is definitely where I want to be right now.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I guess question for everybody now. How has the position impacted you? And also if you have any like funny RA stories you want to throw in there, feel free to do so.
One thing that I gotten out of it was like a lot of pride in my work, which, I've had jobs before, but they were just jobs like, selling tickets or, menial jobs that didn't really have any skill to encompass them. This was like my first job where I was like, I had to interact with people, and that was like your job. Like, you had to interact with people. Adjusting to that and then being able to like actually do it and like succeed in it, and then people come back and it's just like, you're a really amazing RA, and I'm just here like, thank you. I did not know, but thank you. And going back to a little bit what Amber was talking about before, with like the whole making the residents feel comfortable. Like, that is, like, a big thing for me. Like, feeling uncomfortable in a place that you call home is, like, the worst feeling I can ever conjure up in my head. Mm-hmm. So it's just, like, for me at least, like, I try to make everyone that I interact with feel as comfortable as possible. Because, like, you can even see someone being uncomfortable, and I would just be like, oh my gosh, no. So I'm glad that I'm able to do that and, like, you know, make a difference in residents' lives, make them feel more at home in a place that, you know, really is more of an academic home.
The RA role has impacted me more socially, I guess. My freshman year, I was more of a reserved person. I kept to myself. I did what I had to do, did homework and stuff like that. But because of the RA role, you have to be more of a social person and talk to residents throughout the building and on your floor. So I learned to talk more. And I learned how to talk to different people because different people have different needs.
So I think that the RA role is probably the position that has impacted me the most at Stony Brook. And I've done a few different things. I was an orientation leader, and like I've been on the e-boards for a few different clubs, and I've had like other internships. But I feel like I learned a lot in like multiple aspects in this role. So I learned about like leadership and also like Bree was saying like socially, and just learning a lot from like your supervisors and like people on your staff and like different working styles, because like you do collaborate a lot on this job. So I think it's helped me see how to work better with people and like how to be more organized. I really value the conversations I have with residents, especially when they trust me when they're going through something. And I think it's opened me up to seeing other points of view.
Interacting with residents definitely made me more like just able to be myself, because I feel that freshman year, sophomore year, I didn't talk to anyone. I wasn't really truly myself. Like Bree, I was very reserved. You know, I would talk to people, the casual hi and bye, but I wouldn't say anything too controversial, or I wouldn't, you know, wear bright colors, or, you know, I just wouldn't stick myself out there that much because I was just too afraid of being seen. Yeah. But the RA role is you're seen 24/7, so it really gets you like out there and making sure that you're able to be yourself, because, you know. That's
true. I think going into this role, I was really intimidated because I thought I had to be like this person who really had everything figured out. And I think my first year as an RA, or even actually really every semester, but definitely that first year was a time of a lot of growth, because I was like, I definitely went through the sophomore slump. And so I was still trying to figure out more about myself. And so I feel like having to be in a role where I had to seem like I had it all together, it actually kind of like forced me to get it all together and kind of be like that strong person, if not like for the residents, but also for myself.
I know, like, when I first got the role, I was definitely, I was confident because I was like, I'm going to learn through the role. But then people started talking, and they're like, oh, you're in Langmuir, like, that's going to be a lot of work. And I'm just like, what do you mean, like, it's going to be a lot of work? Like, and they would never tell me exactly, like, what they mean. Like, hall council, like, hall council is natural. Like, I lived in Langmuir, so I didn't go to all the hall councils, but, like, I did attend most boards. You learn through the role, like, just to get used to it. So, like, people will say stuff, and, like, don't take it to heart. Just try to understand it. But, like, you figure it out when you're actually in the role.
Most of the stuff that people said about Langmuir, sorry to cut you off.
No, it's all good.
But most of the stuff that people said about Langmuir, we're not being extra. It's just, like, I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's a whole different story over here.
It's our culture.
Yeah, it's more of a culture than, like, doing more. It's just, yeah. That's a great way of explaining it. It's our culture. It's not doing more. It's just the way we are.
If you have fun with the job, you're going to have fun with the job. It's not doing more if you're having fun.
Exactly.
That's so true. Okay, so John, for example, loves SpongeBob. And so last year, he and I, mostly it was him, but we threw a successful paint night event for like the bold and brash painting from SpongeBob. And like to date, I feel like that's one of like the most memorable events we've had in Langmuir. And it's like really great because like that's something that John's super passionate about. And like you're doing an Adopt a Rock program in a few days. So like, do you think it's bringing in your own passion into the job is so important?
January 30th.
Come through, main
Come
lounge.
through.
I think this might be up after the...
Oh, damn. Okay. Whatever.
That's funny.
I'd say before I was an RA, I wouldn't say I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, but, like, I was definitely, like, more reserved and, yeah, I guess I lacked confidence. I guess I'd say that. But after becoming an RA, you kind of have a sense of, like, you have like, a renewed sense of confidence. People look to you for advice. people are going to want to talk to you. So the role kind of forces you to bring out your own self-confidence, interacting with residents and talking to people.
What's the best part of the job for you?
The best part.
The residents.
The residents, yeah. You guys.
Y'all are weirdos.
And I love it though. We're just able to be our weird selves, and literally no one judges you. And it's even more to the fact they'll support you and do it with you, and that is what I love.
And what do you think is the most challenging part of the role?
Time commitments. It can take up a lot of time between duty, almost between duty every week, trying to hold programs. There's a lot of unpredictable things that happen too, so keeping track of time is definitely a challenge with the RA role, especially if you're bad with time management like I was. It could be pretty punishing.
I agree with that, but I also wanted to add, I think going off of what everybody said before about, the social aspect of the job, I think sometimes it can be hard if you're an introverted RA and you haven't had a role before where you have to be, on all the time. Because, I definitely identify as an introvert, so, sometimes, when I'm in a group of people and there's, a lot going on, I kind of been with them for a while, I feel myself, kind of, withdrawing, mentally a little bit. And, I really need, my own personal time. And sometimes that can be hard when you're in the position and you have to always be present for the residents. But I think it's kind of important to set boundaries for yourself. So I tend to leave campus every 2 or 3 weeks for the weekend, and that to me is my own personal time.
A challenging part for me for the role is unpredictability. Yeah, definitely that. Sometimes situations pop up and it could take from 1 hour to 2 hours or even longer than that. And also doing administrative tasks sometimes. It takes me a very long time.
I feel that. Me, it would have to be, administrative tasks and duty, to the point the reports I have to file, whatever. I end up having to read mine at least 3 times because I'm horrible at spelling / grammar / English in total. So I end up having to read it 3 times, making sure that it was right, making sure I didn't miss anything. Because sometimes, I'm a very forgetful person. Anyone who knows me, I'm literally known for losing my keys. So I have to always check everything to make sure that I didn't miss anything or everything's correct. So like Bree was saying, that takes a lot of time. But at the end of the day, it becomes habit. At this point, to the point where I don't even notice it.
Just a side note, if you want a photo of Joseph losing his keys, make sure you check out the staff board outside the college office with our superlatives, because Joseph was voted most likely to lose his keys, and it's a very funny picture.
Very true.
You're never done. So there's not a set of expectations and then you've checked them off and then you're done for the week. You're constantly expected to be doing it. And sometimes it feels like you have to prioritize the position where you're not really here to be an RA, you're here to be a student. And that can get challenging, especially on heavier school weeks.
I've had to give up some commitments of my own when I first became an RA to accommodate the role. And that kind of ate into some of the other things that I like to do, soured some relationships with people who were part of those things that I used to do. So it's not that's a big challenge too, balancing the commitments and trying not to give up those commitments.
Yeah, and I definitely had grades suffer because of time I've had to delegate at certain peak moments.
I think that you all hit on a lot of really key things. I think remembering that your RA or your RHD hat never really comes off, and I think that you all definitely hit on that. So I could be at Stop and Shop buying some groceries, and then I'll run into some residents, which has happened multiple times last semester, which is cool. I definitely wave. I love when I see residents off campus and things like that, but sometimes when you have a bad day, and you just kind of want to get back to your apartment or back to your room, you have to still be cognizant of putting on that smile if you see a resident, or if a resident's having a bad day, being there for them. But I think also remembering that we're human, and we have bad days too. We're not 100% on all the time, and that's something that I hope that our residents are aware of too.
even if you can't do it, there's always a way that you can. So, like, even if you need help from someone, or even if you need to take, like, a few extra days to try to work it out, like, just having that strong just belief that, like, even if, like, you don't believe you can get it done, believe that you, like, will. And I believe, like, that carries you a lot.
Yeah, I think, like, you don't need to come into the role, like, knowing how to be an RA. Like, if you already knew how to be an RA, then you would have been already doing it. You know, our RAs go through an extensive training in the summer. You know, when you're a new RA, you actually come back a few days early, so you get that time with just the other new RAs. And, you know, we're very, I'm trying to think intentional. Mm-hmm. We're very intentional with our training to make sure that, you know, you're getting what you need to get. And, you know, I think, like, having the relationship with your supervisor is kind of like what Joseph was alluding to, that, like, you know, if Joseph comes to me and is like, Amber, like, this board is just going to take a few extra days. Like, I have a big test coming up. I'm like, all right, then it's going to take a few extra days. Like, you know, I feel that, like, you know, schoolwork comes first, and that's the most important.
I think the bottom line is, if you don't want the job, then that's when you shouldn't apply. Mm-hmm. I think that if even like 5% of you really wants to be an RA, just apply. There's no harm in applying and seeing what happens. But if you are somebody who definitely does not want the job, then don't apply, because if you do get the job, then you wouldn't really enjoy it as much.
I'm gonna be pretty blunt, I guess.
Yeah.
Overconfidence. Don't be overconfident about anything, and don't think you're, I guess, entitled to it, because overconfidence, thinking that you're entitled to it and thinking you have no room to grow in an area, that's a big no-no to a lot of people, because even a second-year RA and third-year RAs are constantly learning, so go in with an open mind. And, confidence is good, but don't be too overconfident. I say overconfidence tends to lead to carelessness.
What's something you didn't expect about the role?
I know when I applied to be an RA, again, I was an orientation ambassador, and I was very close with the other 49 orientation ambassadors at my old institution, so I thought that, like, I was never gonna get that, like, close staff feeling. And then when I got the RA position, I actually got, like, a closer staff feeling. Like, my staff was my family. You work with them a lot. Like, they see you at, like, low points. They see you at really high points. They can also really relate and understand the role. So you, like, really build some really strong connections, which is nice.
When I got the RA role, I didn't expect to be put in Langmuir, because I already, like, knew the RAs, kind of. Like, I knew who everybody was in the building. So when I did get selected, it was funny because it was the same. I got selected by the RHD. So the same day that I got selected, they were doing room health and safety inspections. So, like, the RHD, just McKay and Manny comes into the room, and I'm just like, how am I supposed to act? Like, I don't know. So I'm just staring into her eyes. My, like, eyes are, like, tearing up, like, gleaming, shiny. I didn't even know how to look. I was just that's it.
I love Bree.
You got selected and then they invaded your room.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was looking at her like, I don't know what to say.
I think no one knows what to say when someone enters their room for health and safety.
Yeah. I definitely feel what Amber said, because I know, just looking back to my last semester being an RA, you know, I was just so used to doing college on my own, not relying on anyone. Like, I can do this by myself. Where there is a will, there is a way. You know, they have their own, like, I saw my staff as, like, you know, co-workers, not as, you know, co-RAs, because there's a huge difference there. Mm-hmm. Like, I never wanted to rely on them. I never wanted to ask them any questions, because I always felt like, even though they try their hardest to be like, you can ask questions, it's okay, you can be human, it's okay. In my head, all I heard was, you cannot ask questions, it's not okay, you cannot be human, and all that stuff. So that first semester, I was really fighting, trying to get close with anyone. But then, you know, I had to rely on them, because the RA role, especially when you're first getting into it, it's a lot. So, you know, you start trusting more, and I guess that's what I didn't expect. Like, I have very, you know, select people that I trust. But, like, you know, now that Bubbles is open, because, like, I now know I can count on you guys when things get rough. Like, and just having that, especially in a job like this, like, makes it, to me, at least right now, the best thing in the world.
But also, I think it's important to expect that everyone will be different, and just because everyone's an RA doesn't mean that they're all the same person. And like maybe you won't get along with everyone on your staff. And like if you walk through RA training, it's not like 280 cookie cutter people who are the same and perform the position in the same way. It's 280 different ways to be an RA. And there's like a person there behind all of it. I feel like sometimes maybe people will see someone and they'll only see them as an RA. Like that is the body that houses the hand that unlocks my door at 2:00 in the morning. But it's important to realize that there is a lot more there, and you shouldn't expect to know who everyone is going into it just because you're all RAs.
That's true. I think you were hired for a reason, and like each person does bring something unique to the team. And also, I want to share some advice I got when I first got hired. So like that night that I got hired, I left my room and I went to the RA office, and there was an RA from Benedict there named Naeem. If you're listening to this, hi Naeem. But I was like, Naeem, I got hired in Langmuir. Like I was like really like stressed out, and then he told me, and it stuck with me ever since. 3 years later. So he said the RA role is like a hat that you grow into, which I think is like really true, because I was like, I don't know if I can like fit into this role, but then you kind of figure out how to make that role your own. So I guess like one final question, or I'm getting towards the end, but what advice would you give somebody who just got hired?
I would say prepare.
I dropped my phone. It's still recording though. You dropped the podcast.
I would say prepare. This job at times, you know, asks a lot for you. Building door decks and bulletin boards is time consuming. Even if it looks like the worst thing in the world, it still took someone a good amount of time to do it. Like, I would say if you could get that done the summer, you know, as soon as you found out, if you have some construction paper of multiple colors and some scissors, some glue, you have yourself, and a lot of time, you have yourself a map of just like how to start off the RA position easier. Because like one big stressor for me was during training, you know, I had no idea how many residents I was going to have. I had no idea, you know, what constitutes as a door deck, you know. That was really one thought. I was just like, what even is a door deck? Like, what are the boundaries of it? Like, I was so afraid I was going to make something, and then Amber was going to look at me like, that's not a door deck. Like, what are you doing? So I would say just prepare, you know, try to get all the physical work done beforehand so you can focus on, like, the actual interactions and the actual, like, the good part of the job of, like, you know, meeting the residents and communicating with the residents and whatnot.
I think advice that was often talked about already is, like, you're going to learn most of the RA role by being in the position. Like, yes, we go through RA training, which is awesome, but really getting the experience is what's most important. And also, bulletin boards. Have a lot of staples and tape. Very, very important. And Pinterest is very helpful.
That's so true.
Plan ahead. I assume something like life is unpredictable. Just plan ahead. It'll make your life easier.
Ask questions. I think when I first got hired, I was really intimidated because like a lot of my friends that would have been phenomenal weren't hired at that point. So I was like, oh, why'd they pick me? And so I felt really awkward like asking questions. I was like, oh no, they're gonna know that I'm a fraud and I'm not right for this position. But I think it's important to ask questions because like that's how you learn. If you never ask, you're never gonna know the answer.
It's okay to make certain mistakes, okay? Like, don't be afraid that you're gonna get fired the first week for making a mistake. It's okay. There we go.
Also, it's really not that serious. At the end of the day, you'll do this, and then you'll also live the rest of your life, and then you'll die. So, like, really, does any of it make that big a difference?
Don't forget you pay taxes in between.
I don't pay taxes, Sean.
We will.
Never. So yeah, if someone doesn't like you, oh well, whatever. If you're doing your job, you're doing the right thing, you don't understand something, ask a question. Like, really, all of it is not that serious.
Sonia just admitted to a crime.
No, I admitted to a potential crime.
On the podcast.
Future crime.
That's so true, though. I think it's important to have a life outside the position. So, like, stay involved in other clubs and just remember that, like, the RA role is probably only, like, 2 to 3 years of your life. But you have the whole rest of your life ahead of you. And, like, it'll be great memories to have for the future, but it's not everything.
If you don't get the role, don't be too upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people who haven't gotten it, but then moved on to run for e-board positions later that year. And have become like presidents and vice presidents of really big clubs. So keep your head up because there's still plenty of opportunity. And being an RA doesn't mean like guaranteed success in the future. There are a lot of things that you can do that's pretty much equal to the RA role.
Okay, also I had a funny story about Bree based off something that you said, Sonia, because you said it wasn't that serious. So when I was doing my bulletin boards over trading, I was like, Bree, is this straight? Like, I was like stressing out because like the letters weren't perfect. She was like, it's really not that serious. And I was like, it's serious to me, Bree.
Oh, that's funny.
I guess we could talk about our overarching wisdom now. So, like, what do you think sums up this episode of the podcast?
I think that, because I'm sure a lot of you listening are probably applying for the RA position and things like that. And I think that Sonia, like, really hit the nail on the head with that a little bit earlier when she said that, there's no such thing as a cookie cutter RA. Like, I look at my 9 RAs and I'm like, you all are so different, but you all are so different. You each bring, like, a unique set of skills and traits to the position, and that's what you need. Like, I couldn't have 9 RAs that are all wonderful at community engagement because then, like, maybe duty wouldn't be as well, or like administrative tasks wouldn't be getting done, or boards wouldn't be as creative. Like, you definitely need, like, bring your own passions to it, because we can tell, like when a program that you're passionate about, like, shines through, then that's what the residents want to come to. So, like, that's probably why your SpongeBob program was so successful, John.
Golden Fresh.
1, 2, 3.
Lang in there, folks.